There are some things that little by little drain your energy, and you don't even notice it happening. Small behaviors repeated again and again until one day you realize you have no energy left, no patience, not even self-confidence. And the bitterest part is, these behaviors usually come from people you love, people you feel like you just can't let go of. But loving someone doesn't give them the right to treat you badly. If you don't learn to recognize these patterns, you might end up tolerating things for years that are slowly eating away at you from the inside, and you'll think it's normal. Let's go through these 11 patterns together, one by one. Maybe while reading some of them, a certain face will come to your mind. If that happens, don't worry. This is a sign of awakening, not a judgment. I'm not sharing any of this to make you turn against yourself or that person. I'm sharing it so that after all these years, you can finally open your eyes to something that's probably been there for a long time, but you never had a name for it. Number one, they ignore your boundaries. You set a limit, you say no, but it's like it doesn't matter to them. They push again, they try to convince you again, or they act in a way that makes you feel bad until you give in. Sometimes they even start repeating the same request in different forms until you feel so exhausted that it just feels easier to give up. You tell yourself, just this once won't hurt, but this once turns into twice. Then it becomes a habit, and then an unspoken rule in your relationship. And this is a dangerous cycle because they learn that your no isn't really a no. In their mind, your no is just the opening of a negotiation, not a final boundary. And someone who doesn't respect your boundaries, deep down, doesn't respect you either. Because respecting a boundary means recognizing you as a whole person, with your own needs and rights, not just someone who exists to meet other people's needs. Number two, they only show up when they need something. Days pass, weeks pass, no message, no contact. Maybe during that time you even tried reaching out some of the times yourself, but got no response, or just short, cold replies. But the moment they need something, suddenly they reappear. They're warm, they're friendly, maybe even checking in for a few days straight, like you're suddenly important to them again, until they finally get what they wanted, and then they vanish again. Once you notice this pattern, everything becomes clear. They're not interested in you, just in what you can do for them. This is one of the most painful things you can feel in a relationship, that bitter realization that your role in their life is more like a tool than a person. And when this pattern repeats over and over, you can't call it a coincidence anymore. It's a fixed way of relating built on usefulness, not genuine care. Number three, they constantly plant guilt inside you. You want to say no, and suddenly you're the bad guy. They bring up everything they've ever done for you, just to make you feel selfish or ungrateful. Phrases like, after everything I've done for you, or if you really cared about me, you wouldn't act this way. Without even realizing it, you start feeling guilty, and you give in, not because you want to, just to escape that bad feeling. Slowly, you even start doubting your own decisions. You start weighing every choice you make, even before sharing it with anyone. Through their eyes. Will they see this as selfish? Will they think I'm being unfair? This is a clear sign of emotional manipulation, because guilt, when it comes from an actual mistake, is a healthy guide to correcting your behavior. But when it's created artificially, again and again, it's only there to control you, not to help you grow. Number four, they never admit they're wrong. There's always an excuse. There's always someone else to blame. Whatever goes wrong, it's never their fault. If they forget an appointment, they'll say, "You didn't remind me properly." If they say something hurtful during an argument, they'll say, "If you hadn't said that, I wouldn't have responded that way." This is an endless cycle of shifting responsibility. Every time you expect a sincere apology, you end up with some complicated explanation about how somehow it was actually your fault. Being around someone like this is exhausting because you realize nothing ever changes. The same mistake just keeps repeating. Over time, this creates a deep sense of powerlessness in you because you understand that no conversation, no explanation, and no effort to fix things will ever lead anywhere since the other person isn't actually willing to change. Number five, they make you the punchline of their jokes. There's a thin line between joking around and disrespect. A real joke makes everyone laugh, including you. When a joke is genuine, it brings people closer, creates a lighter mood. Everyone laughs together and nobody feels small. But when they keep targeting your appearance, your choices, or your lifestyle, that's not joking anymore. Everyone laughs, you feel uncomfortable, and if you say something, the answer is, "Come on, it was just a joke. Why are you so sensitive?" This ready-made response is a classic tool for silencing you, because by saying it, they not only excuse their own behavior, but also turn your discomfort into a personal flaw. But deep down, you know they've crossed the line. Someone who truly respects you doesn't need to put you down in front of others just to seem funny. A real joke never comes at the cost of someone else's dignity. Number 6, they disappear exactly when you need them most. When everything's going well, they're always around. On good days, at celebrations, they're very present. But the moment things start falling apart for you, it's like they vanish into thin air. You send the message, no reply. You're looking for support and suddenly they're too busy, or they just seem to disappear for a while. But as soon as your life gets back on track, they show up again like nothing happened. They never explain their absence, and they expect you to act like nothing happened too. And if someone chooses to be absent during your hardest moments, that's a conscious choice. Someone who isn't there for your worst moments doesn't deserve to be there for your best ones, because real relationships are tested in hard times, not in easy ones. Number 7, they only ever tell you what you want to hear. They seem supportive on the surface, but underneath, they're just trying to keep you happy with them. They never disagree with you, never point out your mistakes, never challenge you. Even when it's obvious you're making a bad decision, they still say, "Great, go for it." Maybe it's about a risky investment or an unhealthy relationship or a career choice they already know won't work out, but they never say anything that might create even a little friction. It might feel good at first, but in the long run, it keeps you stuck because someone who never points out your mistakes isn't actually thinking about your growth. They're only thinking about their own comfort, the comfort of avoiding a hard conversation or keeping a tension-free relationship even if it costs you your future. Here's something important to notice. When a friend hurts us, it's usually easier to create distance. We can reduce contact or even end the relationship completely without blaming ourselves. But when it's a parent, a sibling, we get stuck. We tell ourselves, well, family is family, and that sacred word turns into a chain that keeps us tied to unhealthy relationships. We suffer inside, but in the name of sacrifice, we let our mental well-being get worn down. We need to remember that blood relation alone doesn't guarantee a healthy relationship. Respect and healthy behavior are things that have to be shown in action, not just claimed through a title. Number 8, they've gotten used to taking from you. You've always been there for them, supported them, helped whenever needed, given your energy, maybe even your resources, without expecting anything back. But when it's your turn, either they're nowhere to be found or they act like you're asking for too much. Sometimes they even expect more, meaning you, the one who always gives, has to give even more, without anyone ever stopping to ask whether this relationship has become one-sided. When someone gets used to this kind of behavior, they stop seeing your kindness as a favor. They start seeing it as your obligation. Number 9, every time you have a dream or idea, they shut it down. You excitedly share a plan or idea with them, and their answer is always negative. There's always a but. That's too risky. I don't think that'll work. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Even said in a worried tone, these words have the same effect, casting a shadow of doubt over everything that matters to you. And slowly, it makes you doubt yourself too. Maybe it really isn't a good idea. Maybe I really shouldn't do this. These inner voices, which over time start sounding like them instead of you, are one of the most toxic effects an unhealthy relationship can leave behind. People who genuinely care might share their concerns, but they also encourage you to keep going. The difference is, they stand beside you, not in front of you, blocking your way. And there's another hidden pain that keeps a lot of people stuck in this unhealthy cycle: the illusion of change. We tell ourselves, if I'm just a little more patient, if I love them a little more, eventually they'll understand and change. This thought gives us a kind of false hope. hope that makes staying in an unhealthy relationship feel justified. But the hard truth is that some people, especially those with selfish patterns, don't actually see any need to change. They hurt you, you suffer, and you keep waiting for the day they'll apologize. That waiting, like a slow poison, drains your youth and your peace of mind. Years go by, and the apology you've been waiting for never comes because the other person simply doesn't value you enough to take responsibility for the pain they've caused. Number 10. They turn things around on you. When you speak up, suddenly the conversation shifts. Instead of looking at their own behavior, they start analyzing your character. You're too sensitive. You always blow things out of proportion. Maybe the problem is you. This technique, sometimes called gaslighting, is one of the most powerful tools of emotional control. Because instead of explaining their own behavior, they redirect all the attention back onto you with just a few sentences. This approach makes you spend your energy defending yourself instead of focusing on the real issue. Instead of the conversation being about why a certain behavior was hurtful, it turns into whether or not you're being too sensitive. And over time, this makes you stop trusting your own judgment and feelings. You start questioning every natural reaction you have. Maybe I really am too sensitive. Maybe I really am exaggerating everything. This gradual erosion of self-trust is one of the longest lasting kinds of damage these relationships can leave behind. Number 11. Their love and attention come with conditions. When you're exactly who they want you to be, they're all over you. When you act the way they expect, when you make the choices they approve of, their warmth and attention are endless. But the moment you have a different opinion or make a choice that doesn't match what they want, suddenly there's coldness and distance. This kind of affection is really just a reward for obedience, not a genuine relationship. In a healthy relationship, love and acceptance flow without conditions, meaning even when you have a different opinion or make a choice that doesn't align with what the other person wants, you still feel loved. But in this conditional kind of relationship, affection always depends on how obedient and agreeable you are. And the most dangerous part is, slowly you learn to hide your true self just to avoid being rejected again. You start keeping your real opinions to yourself, holding back your feelings, maybe even suppressing parts of who you really are just to keep that warmth alive. This is one of the most painful prices you can pay for a conditional relationship, losing your true self. Now, maybe right at this moment, a deep fear comes up. If I remove these people from my life, I'll be alone. This is exactly the fear that keeps so many people stuck in these draining cycles, and this fear is completely natural. As humans, we have a deep need for belonging and connection, and the thought of losing a relationship, even an unhealthy one, can feel terrifying. We tell ourselves that a crowded circle, even one full of people who drain our energy, is better than being alone. But is that really true? Is it really better to surround ourselves with people who keep taking from us just so we don't feel lonely? Or maybe the quality of our relationships matters far more than the number of them. Let me share one golden truth, something many people only realize after years of pain and experience somewhere in the middle of their lives. These behaviors are everywhere, happening every single day. At work, within families, in friendships, even in romantic relationships. And so many people just keep tolerating them simply to avoid conflict and tension. They'd rather stay silent than face the consequences of a difficult conversation. But running away from a small conflict might cost you something much bigger, your peace of mind. And maybe this is the hardest lesson we have to learn, that sometimes an uncomfortable conversation or even stepping away from a relationship costs far less than years of emotional wear and tear. You're not here to change people. This is one of the most important truths we have to accept. No amount of patience, love, or effort can change the character of someone who doesn't want to change. All you can do is learn not to tolerate it anymore. Setting boundaries doesn't make you cold or selfish. It shows that you deserve respect. Setting boundaries isn't a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it shows that you respect yourself enough to not let just anyone treat you however they want. And the moment you stand up for yourself, some people might get upset because they'd gotten used to you always giving in. So don't worry, there's nothing wrong with loving certain people only from a distance. You can still hold them in your heart, even wish them well, without needing them present in your everyday life. Sometimes the best decision you can make for your mental health is simply making your circle smaller.
Being alone is 1,000 times better than drowning in draining crowds. Solitude, when chosen with awareness, can become a space for peace, growth, and reconnecting with your true self, while staying surrounded by relationships that constantly drain your energy keeps pulling you further away from yourself. Your peace of mind is the most valuable thing you have, so don't sell it cheap. No relationship, no family tie, and no title is worth sacrificing your inner peace for. And in the end, learn to recognize these patterns, learn to set boundaries, and learn to put yourself first above any relationship. This choice isn't selfishness, it's an act of real love for yourself, the same love that should be the foundation of every other relationship in your life.